time buff for a reason you'll see here in a second, we take some data that likely comes out of the time variable. You'll see we have the time string here. We have to set this data to be a string for it to resolve properly, right? We have some function of time from param2, which is going to be likely our request. So if this is the function that we use, if this is us pulling all these little extra pieces out of this request, right? We have function equals get math, all of these parameters in the URL. If that is how we assume that this is being ran, we can assume that this is pulling the time parameter out of the URL. And this makes sense, right? Because the time parameter is likely what we're going to need to configure the time. This is the time conf function. So I'm going to name this time conf, and I'm going to call this little function here get param, right? So we have get param from the request, sprintf that into the time buffer, date s. So we're going to set the date to our little input, and then do system command on that time buffer. Now, this is a wrapper for system, so what we could assume is that this is going to properly sanitize the input, but like any good hacker, we're going to test that assumption, right? So what we can do to test this is literally just write the command ourselves. So curl 192.168.11.1 protocol.csp. It was fname equals net from that first request here. And we want to do and opt equals time conf. And the time is equal to, let's just do garbage for right now. And there was some random math variable that maybe like their bad attempt at a CSRF or like a seed. So we're just going to steal that for right now. And then the function is equal to, it was get, right? I did some more reading, and there's actually, it does a compare on get or set, and it's going to return that. And we have to actually be doing a set operation to get into this function, right? So what we can do is do set for this. I'm going to wrap this in a single quote because I want to do a command injection at some point, and I don't want to command inject myself. And you'll see that it says set error equal to 0, which means that we set the date equal to ASDF. What we can do now is actually test, does our command injection work? Do we have the ability to run arbitrary commands through just the use of a simple reboot? And you'll see first it says error 0, and the second time the command hangs because the device has rebooted, right? We have turned the device on and off, and now we can no longer connect to the device. So we can run arbitrary commands on this device, but that's not cool. That's not cool enough. We want to get a shell on this device. I want to have access to this device via the command line. So what can we do? So going back to our firmware image here, we can see all of the binaries that are on the device, and you'll see pretty quickly that we have the lovely telnetd. So user sbin telnetd is a binary that we can use to basically run any other binary on any other port, right? Assuming there are no firewall rules in place. And so what we can do to mess with that guy is, first of all, I got to reset my network interface. And then now we can update our exploit to actually set up the right thing. So what I want to do is user sbin telnetd. So first of all, we're putting this IFS separator to emulate a space on the device, because sometimes in HTTP, the spaces will get escaped weirdly. We want to do -p IFS on port 4444. And then we want to set the login binary.
And mail merge. It'll come up and ask, first of all, what the source is. And the source is going to be CSV, because we've created a CSV file. The deliver mode for now, I'm going to say save as draft, because I don't want to send the messages now. If I can have it create these messages and put them into my drafts folder, then I know it's going to work. And for this example, we don't have attachments. For the file, I'm going to browse, and it automatically goes to my documents folder. So I'll pick the mail merge recipients file, say open, and I can see there it's picked UTF-8, which is the format that I picked, and the default options here for the comma, they're fine. And then what I'm now going to do is say OK. And the mail merge has now run. So we can now see my draft has 3 items. If I click on that, we can see that the 3 messages have been created. The correspondence look correct, so the recipients of the email have filled the correct email addresses. And if I open one of those, you can see that the mail merge field has pulled the name in correctly. That's exactly what we're looking for, and this is how you would send a simple mail merge. Okay, we're going to do this one more time, and this time we're going to use the attachments functionality so that we can send a unique attachment to each of the mail recipients. So if I go to my Documents folder, I've added a folder called Attachments, and within that folder I have 3 files, just 3 car logos, and one thing to note is that the capitalization of each of the file names is all